Have you ever felt everything go right? The conversation, the laughs, the eye contact, and then nothing? She just disappeared. No explanation, no closure, just silence where connection used to be. You replayed it, you looked for what you said wrong. Maybe you were too available, maybe not available enough, maybe you tried too hard or not hard enough. And somewhere in all that replaying, a quiet voice started saying something dangerous. Maybe you're just not the kind of man women choose. I need you to stop right there. That voice is lying to you. And today we're going to prove it. I'm your host, and this is Swana Advice, where we uncover the real psychology that creates desire. Not the surface stuff, not the pickup lines, not the games. The deep biological subconscious patterns that actually move a woman's emotions. Because here's what no one ever told you. Attraction isn't a decision she makes consciously. It's a feeling she discovers. And if you've been approaching this like a logical transaction, expecting effort to equal interest, then of course it hasn't been working. You've been playing chess while the real game was something else entirely. And I'll warn you now, the final signal I'm going to share with you is incredibly powerful. It triggers something in the female brain that almost every man handles completely wrong. Once you understand it, nothing about your interactions will feel the same. But first, let's talk about why you've been losing without even knowing the rules. This was never your fault. Nobody taught you this. You were raised in a world that told you to be kind, to show up, to prove your value through effort and consistency. And those are beautiful qualities in a human being. But attraction doesn't reward them automatically. Attraction follows a completely different logic. A hidden logic, an emotional one. And the moment you start understanding that logic, everything shifts. You stop chasing. You stop second guessing. You start operating from a place of genuine confidence. Not because you memorized a script, but because you finally understand what's actually happening beneath the surface. Here's the framework. Evolutionary psychology tells us that women developed incredibly sophisticated subconscious screening systems. Not to be cruel, but because for thousands of years, choosing the wrong partner had life or death consequences. So the female brain became a precision instrument for detecting certain signals. Signals that communicate safety, strength, emotional depth, and genuine presence. These signals aren't about height or income. They're about energy, behavior, the way a man carries himself and shows up. And the fascinating thing is most of these signals were completely below the level of conscious thought. She doesn't decide to feel attracted. She just does. Or she doesn't. And it happens within minutes. Sometimes seconds. So your job isn't to impress her. Your job is to emit the right signals. Consistently, authentically. And that starts with the first one. Masculine presence. Not aggression, not domination. Presence. This is the quality of being completely grounded in your own body, your own values, your own purpose, regardless of what she does or doesn't do. When you walk into a room worried about how you're coming across, that anxiety leaks. She feels it. She doesn't know why, but she feels slightly less safe. When you walk in anchored, comfortable in silence, unhurried in your movements, genuinely curious about the world around you rather than performing for it, something shifts in how she experiences you. You become the kind of man she notices without trying to notice. Practice stillness. Stop filling silence just to avoid it. Let your presence speak before your words do. Grounded men don't audition. They simply exist, and that's magnetic. The second signal is emotional challenge. Now, I want to be careful here because this is wildly misunderstood. This is not about being cold. It's not about playing games. It's about polarity, about creating a dynamic that actually has electricity in it. When a man agrees with everything a woman says, validates every opinion, and molds himself to match her preferences, he removes all tension. And tension, the right kind, is what creates aliveness and attraction. A light tease, a moment where you hold a playful position even when she pushes back. A genuine difference of opinion that you express warmly, but without backing down. That's not manipulation. That's polarity. It tells her subconscious something important. This man isn't desperate for my approval. And the brain that was built to detect strength, that registers deeply. Nice men who never challenge aren't exciting. They're comfortable. And comfort by itself doesn't create desire. Now here's the third signal. And it's one most men completely underestimate. Selective attention. There's a principle in scarcity economics that applies directly to human psychology. We assign more value to what isn't infinitely available. When you have a full life, a purpose that drives you, friendships that fulfill you, interests that genuinely light you up, your attention becomes something worth earning. And she feels that. The man who is always available, always ready, always orbiting her schedule, his presence stops registering. There's no weight to it. But the man who is engaged in his own world, who makes time for her because he chooses to, not because he has nothing else, his attention lands differently. It means something. So fill your life first. Not as a strategy, as a mandate. Be someone you'd be interested in. Your attention is currency. Don't make it cheap. If this is making sense so far, hit subscribe and join the Swana Advice community. Thousands of men are learning here what they were never taught in school, at home, or anywhere else. It takes you 2 seconds and it genuinely helps us reach more men who need this. Let's keep going because we're only halfway. And the next signals are where it gets really precise. The fourth signal is intentional listening. Not nodding, not waiting for your turn. Actual listening. The kind where you remember what she said 3 conversations ago and bring it up casually weeks later. The kind where you ask a follow-up question that shows you were tracking not just her words, but the emotion underneath them. Women communicate in layers, the surface content and then the feeling beneath it. When a man hears both, something happens to her that she can't quite explain. She feels seen, not observed, seen. And being truly seen by another person is one of the most powerful emotional experiences a human being can have. When she mentions, almost in passing, that she's nervous about a call with her sister, and then you ask about it the next time you talk. That's not a trick. That's emotional intelligence. And it creates a form of connection that physical attraction alone cannot. See her. Remember her. She'll feel the difference in her bones. The fifth signal is what I call calibrated vulnerability. This is one of the most misunderstood concepts in male psychology. There's a version of vulnerability that repels. The emotional dumping, the oversharing, the leaning on someone you barely know with wounds they're not equipped to hold. That's not vulnerability. That's neediness wearing vulnerability's clothes. Real calibrated vulnerability is something else. It's being willing to say, quietly and with confidence, that failure hit me harder than I expected. I learned something from it. It's acknowledging struggle without drowning in it. It's sharing something real while staying grounded in the telling. Women don't want a man with no emotional depth. They want a man who has depth and can hold it. Show her you felt things. Show her those things didn't break you. That combination, depth plus resilience, is extraordinarily rare and extraordinarily attractive. Now we move to the sixth signal, and this one works directly on the body's chemistry. Gradual physical touch. Light, respectful, intentional. Oxytocin, the bonding hormone, is released through touch. But the key word is gradual. A hand briefly on her back as you guide her through a door. A light touch on her forearm when you're making a point. eye contact held just a beat longer than normal. These small moments, accumulated over time, build a physical awareness of each other that grows into something that feels to her like genuine chemistry. It doesn't feel manufactured because it isn't. It's the natural result of intentional, respectful presence. Men who rush this create discomfort. Men who ignore it entirely stay stuck in the friend zone, wondering why she sees them as safe but not desirable. Move slowly. Read her responses. Let the physical dimension build like a conversation that has its own pace. Chemistry isn't luck, it's built. And now, the final signal. The one I warned you about. Controlled unpredictability. The brain is a prediction machine. It finds patterns, follows them, and once the pattern is established, stops paying close attention. Routine in attraction is the enemy of desire. When a man is completely predictable, always responds within 2 minutes, always available when she calls, always warm and enthusiastic without variation, he becomes background noise. Not because he's doing anything wrong, but because the brain stops registering what it can already predict. Controlled unpredictability solves this, not by being flaky or unreliable, but by occasionally surprising her, suggesting something unexpected instead of the usual, taking longer to respond sometimes, not because you're playing games, but because you're genuinely living your life. Showing a side of yourself she didn't expect. A skill, a perspective, a piece of humor that doesn't fit the box she put you in. This creates dopamine. Not the dopamine of confusion or anxiety, but the dopamine of genuine curiosity. The brain lights up around people it can't fully predict because those people feel alive, dynamic, worth paying attention to. Don't be a mystery to create distance. Be a mystery because you have actual depth that unfolds over time. That's the signal almost no one uses correctly, and now you understand it. So let's step back and look at what you now carry. You know that presence speaks before words, that polarity creates electricity without cruelty, that your attention is valuable because your life is full, that she feels seen when you listen to what's beneath her words, that calibrated vulnerability shows depth without desperation. That gradual touch builds real chemistry. And that controlled unpredictability keeps her genuinely curious about who you actually are. These are not tricks. Every single one of these is rooted in real psychology, evolutionary biology, neurochemistry, attachment theory. They work not because they manipulate, but because they communicate something true, that you are a man with genuine depth, purpose, and emotional intelligence. And that is exactly what the female brain, deep in its ancient wiring, is looking for. The shift that happens when you apply these isn't just that women respond differently. It's that you start moving through the world differently. You stop monitoring her reactions for clues about your worth. You stop shrinking yourself to seem less threatening or more palatable. You stop chasing, and you start being fully, quietly, powerfully being the man you were always capable of becoming. She doesn't fall for the performance. She falls for the reality, and the reality you build from here is yours to shape. You don't need to be perfect. You never did. You just needed a map, and now you have one. Real tools, real psychology, used with respect and intention. That's the only way this works. And that's the only way we teach it here. If you're ready to stop chasing and start becoming the man women genuinely desire, subscribe to Swana Advice right now. Turn on notifications because the next video will go even deeper into the patterns most men never even knew existed. What's coming next will shift your reality again, and you won't want to miss it.